Good morning, everyone. Our webinar this morning is the one presented by Mark Donahue. Mark's passion is to see people unlock their potential, believe in themselves, and achieve their impossible. Nothing fires Mark up more than watching a light go off when the dots connect. Mark has been on the one thing journey for 2 years now. It has transformed his business, his marriage, and his thinking. Welcome, Mark.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. The simple fact of the matter is, I would just want you guys to know that I'm in the middle of getting a new computer. My computer transitioned on me. So you can see my slides on one screen, and if you go to gallery view, you can see me over here on gallery view. Can you guys see me on one side and slides on the other? Give me a thumbs up if you can do that. Perfect, good deal. So let's start. The one thing is the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. And the one thing journey for me, as you heard Dave say, started about 2 years ago. In 2017 in December, I came home. I was a real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty. I came home after long days of work and found a little surprise on my bathroom counter. And that surprise was a pregnancy test. I got home late that night, and I had a 2-year-old son at the time, and I quickly rushed into his room to put him down for bed and do the bedtime routine. When he went to sleep, I rushed back out into the living room, excited to celebrate with my wife. And I couldn't find her anywhere. And finally, when I did find her, she was curled up in a ball on our bed, bawling. And I tried to console her and expected her to be excited, and here she was crying and she wasn't talking. And I finally asked her, "What's the matter?" She said to me, "Mark, we can't afford another baby." The simple truth is, in my real estate business at the time, I was working long hours. I was doing everything that I thought that I could to provide for my family. And if I'm very honest with you, my business was failing miserably. And then my wife drops this on me and cuts me right to the core. And I ask her, I say, what if this mess I've created in my business ends up costing me the things that matter most, which is my family? And that was December. 2 months later, we went to our national sales conference called Family Reunion. And I looked at the agenda for the breakout sessions. And one of the classes was entitled, How Billionaires Set Goals. And my mind said, billionaires, don't worry about going to that class. You need to get the next sale, the next $10,000. Billionaires, you're not even close to that. My mind said one thing, but my heart said another. And I just have to ask, has there ever been a time in your life where your mind told you to go one way, but your heart was pulling you a different direction? That's where I was. And so I ended up in the class, the breakout session, and for the next 75 minutes, I listened to Jeff Woods, who's the president of theonething.com, and Jay Papazon, who's the co-author of the book, talk about having a relationship with your goals and what it means to invest your time versus spending your time. And I walked away more empowered than ever. And in that same year, I increased my sales business by 500%. More important than that, though, I spent more time at home with my wife and my kids. My question to you today is, are you interested in learning how to invest time versus spend it, so that way you can be more productive in the hours that you're working, then at a prescribed time, shut your business down and go out and live your life? If you're interested in that and you want to get started, go ahead and put yes in the comment box right now. Good deal. The one thing is very simply, it's what Gary Keller used to take Keller Williams Realty from a small one-person shop in Austin, Texas, to the largest real estate company in the world. It is the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. And what we find is Gary, every year, because he meets with his top agents in the company, he does a mastermind. And at one of those masterminds, he shared a nugget that might surprise you. It surprised most of the people in the room, but here's what Gary said to his top agents. Working long hours is cheating. Apologize, my phone's going off. It's cheating because you can muscle your way to a result. You can work hard and work long. And the simple fact of the matter is, you might find yourself in the same place that I found myself in my sales business, where I was working long hours and I was putting in the work, but the results just weren't showing up. Anybody else ever been there? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever found yourself sacrificing relationships for your business? Or have you ever found yourself sacrificing your health for your business? If you have, put I have in the comment box. Most of us have. And Gary says that you can work long hours and spend your time on the wrong things, and you may not ever get a result. And if you do work really hard and grind and do all the things that our culture tells us to do in today's age, you might end up cheating yourself out of what it means to live a life. And so every day we have to answer that's what we call the challenge of life. And the challenge of life very simply is this. It's that there's all the things that we could know, all the things that we could have, and all the things that we could do. The simple fact of the matter is we can't know it all because life is too complex. You can't have it all because life offers too much. And you can't do it all because your time is limited. So we have to ask ourselves the question, what's the result that we want? And then we have to make choices about how we go about getting those results. It's kind of like lining up dominoes. So let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever lined up dominoes in your life? If you have, put I have in the checkbox, in the comments, sorry. Anybody lined up dominoes? Perfect, so a couple people have. Out of curiosity, what's the most dominoes you've ever lined up so that way you can knock them all down? Let me see how many you guys have actually done. Is it 10, 25, 1,000? How many have you lined up? Nancy says 1,000. Nancy, really 1,000? That's awesome. 50, 100, great. So we've done this. We understand that dominoes, if we line them up and we knock down the first one, we get to watch this incredible chain reaction happen. Actually, in 2009, there was a company in the Netherlands that smashed the world record for the most dominoes fallen. It was 4.5 million dominoes lined up and knocked down. It shattered the world record. And I imagine what it would have been like to be in that room and watch the dominoes go back and forth, up and down, all around 4.5 million dominoes falling down. What they didn't think would happen, or they didn't plan on, was there was a scientist in the room who measured how much kinetic energy was released with 4.5 million dominoes being knocked down. Turns out it released 94,000 joules of energy. Now, 94,000 joules is the same amount of energy that it would take for me or the average sized male in America to get down and do 545 push-ups. Only about 5 or 10 more than I can do right now. Just kidding. It unleashed this incredible amount of energy just by knocking down the first domino. So, Amanda, is it possible to unmute Nancy? Nancy, can I ask you a quick question? Would that be okay? Nancy, while Amanda's unmuting you, here's my question. When you lined up the 1,000 dominoes, did you have to knock down all of them, or did you just knock over the first one?
I just knocked over the first one, and then they all fell. But I didn't do it too many times because it was a lot of work.
That's a lot of work to set them up, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Guys, if you've ever done this, the goal is to line them up in such a way that when you knock down the first one, it unleashes this chain reaction. And what we say is, if we will identify what our lead domino is, what we understand is the path to getting everything you want is by getting one thing at a time. To line up the dominoes so that way we knock down the first one and it sets up this chain reaction of things that happen behind it. It's kind of like this. Here's a great quote that you might want to write down. Think big, act small, trust that the dominoes will fall. The question becomes, how do we identify what our lead domino is? Well, before we get there, let's talk about the power of dominoes. You may not know this, but in 1983, Lorne Whitehead, he was a physicist, realize that dominoes will not only knock down a domino of equal size, but it'll actually knock down a domino that's 1.5% its size. So a 2-inch domino would knock down a 3-inch domino. A 3-inch domino would knock down a 4.5-inch domino. Our graphics team decided to have a little bit of fun with this. And here's what they found. They created a chart, and it says by the 18th domino, just 18 dominoes in, if you started with a 2-inch domino, that domino would be the size of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, there's always one in every group. Has anybody here actually visited the Leaning Tower of Pisa? If you have, put me in the comments. The 23rd domino would be the size of the Eiffel Tower. This is where this gets crazy. By the 31st domino, we're 3,000 feet taller than Mount Everest, the tallest peak in the world. And by only the 57th domino, we can almost bridge the gap between the Earth and the Moon. Don't miss the line at the bottom of your screen, because that's the exact trajectory that we find successful people have. Some of you in your businesses, if I can be really honest, are probably failing so slowly, you feel like you're succeeding. And what we find is the people who have extraordinary results, they are succeeding so slowly that it feels like they're failing. I'll explain what that means to you a little bit more, but what I want you to understand is this process, you're gonna feel like you're just whacking away at a 2-inch domino thinking, this is never gonna give me a result. And then all of a sudden you catapult up into the high extreme results area. But it's a matter of doing one thing at a time, doing it right over time. Another way to say it is we believe that success is sequential, not simultaneous. That's one you might want to write down. Extraordinary success is sequential, not simultaneous. Well, Mark, if it's just as easy as lining up some dominoes and flicking them over, why don't more people have massive success? Well, what we find is there's these things called the lies. The lies, very simply, are these 7 things that Gary has identified in the book, The One Thing, that keep us from being extremely productive. The first one that I want to talk to you about today is this lie of everything matters equally. Give me 1 second here, and let me jump to my right slide. Everything matters equally. How do we know if we're living by this principle? Well, if you find yourself getting to the end of the day of being extremely busy and then asking yourself, did I even get anything done today? You've probably fallen victim to this lie. Gary has this philosophy that he works by, and if you were to walk into the desk, the office of Gary Keller, there's something that you would see on his desk that drives everything that he does. It's rather powerful and it's simple, but I want you to take a minute and write it down. Until my number 1 priority is done, everything else is a distraction. What does that mean? It means that if I identify the most important thing of my day, until I get that thing done, everything else is a distraction from me getting done the things that are most important. If it's most important, doesn't it make sense for you to work on it first? And yet so many times we find ourselves getting to work or getting to our home office, and the first thing we do is we open up email. And the simple fact of the matter is that email is probably not the most productive thing you can be doing to move your business forward. So how do we kind of identify this? Well, we have to identify what is our number 1 priority. And we steal this concept of the Pareto principle, or this principle that tells us that things are not proportionate. If you were to analyze your day, you would find that there are some activities that give you 80% of the results, and some that give you maybe 10 or 15% of the results. And The Pareto principle simply says that 20% of your efforts are going to lead to 80% of your results. So how do we identify what your 20% is? Very simply, do you have a piece of paper and a pencil? If you do, put yes in the comment box. If you don't, go find a piece of paper and a pencil, because this is going to be a great workshop for you. Here we go. All we need to do is we need to write down everything that we need to do this week. So it looks like this. You create a to-do list. You write down everything you have to get done in your business this week. Let's just start with this week. Are you going to check email? Are you going to get on Facebook? Are you going to do some kind of lead generation? Do you have to send out marketing? Do you have to have client meetings? What are the things you need to get done this week? Just write that list as fast as you can. Come up with 5, maybe 10 items. Go ahead. Okay, stop. Regardless of how many things you have written down, what I want you to do is go back to that list, and you're going to ask yourself one question, and it's this. Is this item a 20% activity that's going to give me 80% of my results? And if the answer is yes, you're going to write it on the side or just put a star next to it for now. And if it's no, just go to the next item and work your way through your list. Take 30 seconds to do that now. Is this a 20% activity that's going to give me 80% of my results? Go. If the answer is yes, put a star next to it. Great. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the items that we put stars next to, and we're going to create our success list off to the side. What I want you to do is just write the items that you put a star next to off to the side. Go ahead and write those now. It should be a handful, 2, 3, maybe 4. The last step of this process is now we're going to prioritize these things. These are our 20% activities that we've just identified. The question is, are they in order of priority? Meaning, is the number one thing this thing that's going to give us the most results or have the biggest impact? And should we earn the right to work on something else? That would be number 2. So just go through your success list and put, is this the number 1 priority for me? And if it is, put a 1. And then go back and ask yourself, is this the number 2? If I earn the right to work on something else, would this be the second most important thing? And now you have a prioritized list of what needs to get done. And you've identified, because you put a 1 next to it, your number 1 priority. And as Gary says, until you've accomplished that thing, or at least worked on it today, everything else is a distraction. And extrapolate this out. Imagine if you just got that thing done every single day. Where would you be in a year as far as your business? You'd probably be significantly farther ahead than where you are right now. That's lie number 1, that everything matters equally. The second lie that we talk about is this lie of multitasking. Now, Chamber of Commerce, most of your business owners, or at least you have some kind of input in your business. How many of you believe, put me in the chat box if you believe that multitasking is a desirable quality to have in a new hire? Don't be shy. I know it said multitasking is a lie, okay? Me for sure, Nancy says me, perfect. We believe that multitasking is a lie. I want you to remember this number. I'm sorry, that multitasking is important. I want you to remember this number 28% down at the bottom of your screen here, because we're going to talk about what that means. I want to demonstrate to you how multitasking is a lie. So we're going to play a little game together. What we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through the instructions. And then before I say go, Amanda, I'm going to have you unmute everybody in just a second, not right now. And then we're going to see if we can actually, if we're great multitaskers or if we're terrible multitaskers. So let's figure it out. Let's figure this out. Multitasking mania. Very simply, all we're going to do is on a sheet of paper, you're going to write A through Z, the entire alphabet. You have to write the whole thing out. No cheating. A, B, C, D, E, all the way to Z. When you finish that, I want you to go right beneath it and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way out to 26. So you're going to write the entire alphabet first, and then you're going to count from 1 to 26, and you're going to write these on your paper. I'm going to start a stopwatch on my phone. When you have completed this, the A through Z, then 1 through 26, you're just going to say the word done, and I'm going to give you your time. Are there any questions about what we're going to do? All you need to do is write the alphabet, and then 1 through 26. Does that make sense? Okay, Amanda, can you unmute everybody? If you guys are in a loud background, just go ahead and mute yourself. So who that is. Oh, sorry, I'm showing you, I'm cheating. I'm trying to mute myself. There we go. All right, so I'm going to start the timer. Not me. I only have one piece of audio connected. Perfect. Okay. Amanda, do you know? Can you identify who that is?
No, there's a few people that are.
Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll mute everybody again, Amanda. And then when you're done, just put me in the kill everybody with feedback. Sorry about that. All right, so I'll watch the comment box. Again, all you're going to do is you're going to tell me, you're going to write A through Z, 1 through 26. On your mark, get set, go. $23, Brittany, good job. Lori, 30. Susan, 32. Nancy, 34. Joni, 38. Got it, 48. That was good, Kent. And when everyone else is done now, we're going to say 55 for that. So let's all just stop, okay? That was right at about a minute. Slow typer, that's okay, Chuck, no worries. We're going to do so for round 2, we're going to do the exact same thing. What you're going to do is you're going to do A through Z, and then 1 through 26. Here's what we're going to change though. In this round, you're going to write A, and then you're going to go number 1, B, 2, C, 3, D, 4. Does that make sense? So we're going to change it just a little bit, same game. You can do it right underneath. You can write however you want. Again, I'm going to give you a time when you say done, or you can just put a letter in there. It doesn't make a difference. Are you ready? Everyone clear? A1, B2, C3, all the way until Z and 26. On your mark, get set, go ahead. Kent, I love your virtual background. Is that the Citrus Tower back there? Good deal. Hey, Nancy, when you were lining up your dominoes, did you have any issues lining them up? Hey, Amanda, did you get the email that I sent over a minute ago? Can everybody hear me
I'll
okay?
have a slow time now.
No, I don't have an email from you.
That's okay, no worries. All right, guys, what's taking so long? Come on, we're at 47 seconds already. I think we got some. There we go. Keith, 47. Joni, 51. All right, 54. Brittany, Nancy, 57. All right, let's stop. Good, 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 good. It's a nice job. 1 minute, 2 seconds. Here's my question for you. How many of you had to sing the alphabet song in your head like you were in elementary school again? If you did, put me in the comment box. Did you have to sing it? Or did you have a mistake in round 2 that you didn't have in round 1? Anybody? The reason that we struggle in round 2 or that it takes longer is because you notice in round 2, what did I do? I started distracting you. I asked Amanda if she received the email. I didn't send an email, right? I asked someone if we could help me out. These are the distractions that happen in the office every single day. Hey, you got a minute? Can you help me with something real fast? Hey, did you get that email? These are the distractions. And what happens in our mind, yeah, you had to think more, you had to sing it, right? Exactly. How many of you had mistakes where you forgot what comes after J, or you found yourself going, oh no, I just wrote the wrong letter. I wrote a number in the letters, like all kinds of mistakes. This is multitasking, and this is how it actually affects us in the workplace. We have our primary work, the thing that we're working on first. Let's just say, for example, because everybody deals with this, you're reading an email and you get a phone call in the middle of that email. Well, your primary work is checking your email at that time. The phone rings and you have to identify who is the person that called, is what they're calling about important, and should you answer this call right now? Let's just say you take the phone call. You go through that conversation, you hang up the phone, and then you go back to the email. Do you start reading from the exact same word, or do you read the whole email top to bottom again? You read the whole thing over again. We all do. And what happens is we have our primary work, then we have what is called the switch cost, where our brain has to change gears, and then we work on what we're calling the distraction. Then we reorient again and get back to our primary work. And look how much time it takes on the screen. Significantly more, just like it took you longer to write your alphabet. The contrast is if we just stay focused on our primary work, we can get more done in a shorter amount of time. And because we're working on the most important thing, we can have greater results. The challenge is that we don't live in a vacuum. And so this idea of not multitasking is very difficult. And by the end of our time together, you're going to have some very proven strategies to help you identify what is your primary work and how do you make sure you stay focused on it. That number 28% that we talked about, that's the amount of time that's lost by multitasking. 28% of your work week, 1.3 days per week. So imagine if you could have the same level of success in your business and get 1.3 days back to go spend with your family, or to spend that 1.3 days on your primary work and really accelerate your growth. What would happen in your business? What would happen in your personal relationships? What would happen for you? What Steve Uzzell said, I think is pretty accurate, is that multitasking is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time. You struggle to write your alphabet, and that's a pretty simple task. The last slide that we're going to talk about this morning is this idea of a disciplined life. A lot of us think that in order to have massive success, we just have to be really, really disciplined. And remember, the purpose of us being in business is to fund the perfect life. The perfect life for me involves enjoying time off, and it means shutting my business down at a prescribed time and having a hamburger every now and then, not just kale. The simple fact of the matter is that a disciplined life is exhausting. And we think that we just have to be more and more disciplined. The simple fact of the matter is we don't need to be that disciplined. We need to be disciplined enough to create habits. This is my favorite quote from the book, and I'd love for you to write it down. People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their future. Here's the secret to this quote, so I love it so much, because this is true, and it means that you are one habit away from something extraordinary. You just got to create the right habit. People don't decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits take them to their future. So how long does it take to form a habit? Well, the University College of London found out that on average, it takes about 66 days to create a habit. 66. That's going to change depending on the complexity of the habit, but on the average, 66 days will form a habit. So all we need to do is be disciplined for 66 days until habit. It means that you can then put yourself on autopilot to take you to where you want to go. Take, for example, brushing your teeth. If you brushed your teeth this morning, put me in the comment box. If you didn't brush your teeth, put me in the comment box so not everybody else will judge you. Okay, great. So if you brushed your teeth this morning, let me ask you, was it because you're so disciplined? Or is it because it would just feel weird if you didn't brush your teeth every single day? It's a habit. You've built this habit over time, and now it's a part of your life every single day. You don't even have to think about it most of the time. So all we need to do to form habits is find out what is the thing we want to form a habit around and set out on a journey for 66 days until this becomes a part of our life. And if that for you is meeting with clients or having so many appointments every day, whatever that may be, you get to decide what those habits are. And by creating the habit over time, we can stack these habits that makes us not disciplined, but just living an incredible life. Let's take a break for a second. What I want you to do, we've been together for about 30 minutes now. What is the thing that's been the most impactful to you so far? Just take a minute and write down what's landing heavy on you or that you're going, wow, that's super powerful. Write that down. These are the things that I want you, as we leave our workshop today, these are the things that I just want you to keep in mind so that you have some nuggets and some things that you can go back and say, how is this going to change what I'm doing on a regular basis? So the 3 lies, again, that we've talked about. Number 1 is that everything matters equally. It doesn't. Client meetings are not as important or are more important than checking email. Sitting in pointless meetings, not as important as taking time to plan out your week to make sure you know when you're going to work on your one thing. Second lie is that multitasking doesn't really work, and we waste 28% of our time. Number 3 is this idea of a disciplined life. So what's a simple way that we can take all of this information and narrow our focus so where we identify what truly is most important to us? This next slide is what we call the focusing question from the book, The One Thing. It's a very simple question, and it would be a mistake to dismiss it because of its simplicity. So I just want you to take a moment and write it down. What is the one thing I can do such by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? Don't be discouraged because of how simple it is. Simplicity allows us to put it into action. Complex things we don't put into action. This is simple. But let's break down the anatomy of the question. It starts off by asking us, what's the one thing? Not multiple things, not 2, 3, 4, or 5 things. What's the one thing that I can do? I don't know about you guys, but my entire world in the last 40 days got completely flipped upside down, and there was everything that I could no longer do. The power of this question is, what's the one thing that you can do because you're still in control of your life? And it's not what should I do? What do I feel obligated to do? What can I do? Such that by doing it, meaning that you're going to take action on that one thing, everything else becomes easier and necessary because you lined up the dominoes. And you worked on the first things first, and you realize that some of the things that you were doing are not really that important. Or you realize that by doing this, it's going to topple another domino that'll lead to another domino. What's the one thing I can do such by doing it, everything else becomes easy or unnecessary? And at this point in our workshop, in our conversation, we usually hear the question or the objection, Mark, I have more than one thing. This sounds great, but I have more than one thing. I know, we all do. We have these 7 areas that Gary's identified as kind of the 7 key areas of our life. And the first one would be our spiritual lives, because at some point in time, we're all going to wonder what's life about and why are we here? For our physical health, here's the truth. You only get one body. If you don't live in this thing, where are you going to live? For your personal life, these are the things that make you, you. They're the things that recharge your batteries. Your key relationships could be your spouse, your kids, coaches, colleagues, coworkers, whatever that may be. For your job, that's the day-to-day action that you take inside of the larger business. And the business is the organization as a whole. And then lastly, for your finances. In our longer workshops, we then we'd have you rate how you're doing 1 to 10 in these 7 areas. And then we would go into helping you identify your lead domino, meaning what is the thing that you need to get done in that area. You pick one circle. They're all important, but you focus on one. And then we work backwards to help you identify what is that 2-inch domino that if you will just knock it over would set off extraordinary results in that area of your life. That's what we do in a longer workshop. And if that's something that you guys are interested in doing or you want to explore that, well, I'm going to share with you at the end of our workshop how you can do that. So we all have more than one thing, and we have some tools that we talk about to help you identify those things. But here's a very simple model to follow to live out what we're talking about. First, you identify your one thing. And it can be something as simple as what you identified on your success list. Second thing that you need to do is you need a time block. And the last thing that you got to do is protect your time block. What is time blocking? If you've never heard of it before, very simply, a time block is an appointment that you keep for yourself to work on your most important work. So let's think that you had a big client meeting that you have been working hard to get. You finally earned the meeting. Is there anything in the chat box, is there anything that's going to stop you from being at that meeting and being fully present? Nope. Chuck says no. Of course not, because it's super important. And what we find is that people all the time will schedule an appointment with themselves and then they don't hold it because you don't view yourself as important. And you are. You extremely are. So how do we time block? What do we need to do? Gary says there's only 3 things that we need to time block. First thing you need to time block is your time off. Mark, why would I time block my time off first? Here's the truth. People that have extraordinary success, number one, they understand that they can afford to go on the vacation that they want. And number 2, they understand that they're going to work really hard while they're at work. They're going to need the time off to recharge the batteries. In real estate, that was the industry I came from. It was not uncommon for realtors to go several years without a vacation, and they would just be exhausted and burned out. So the first thing we block off is our time off. Work between the vacations. Think of it this way. Imagine that you're, in your mind, imagine that there's a stream flowing by a big mountain. The water's flowing down the stream, and all of a sudden this big boulder falls off of the mountain and it lands right in the middle of the stream. What happens to the water in the stream now that the boulder's there? It flows around the boulder. And so the simple fact of the matter is by putting these blocks of time for our time off in the river, everything then flows around it so that way you can go on vacation and not feel bad about not being at work. So that way you can take your family on the vacation that you've been promising them for years, but keep pushing down the road. And you understand that if something happens, you have the right to take your vacation back and apply it to work. So time block your time off. Number 2, you time block your one thing, because that is your number 1 priority. Number 3, you time block planning time. You check in with your goal and see, how did I do last week? Where's my one thing showing up this coming week? That's it. It's a very simple process. Gary says that if you want to have extraordinary results or really big results, you need to have a really big view of time. So let's do something real fast. I would love for you to take out your
Mark, I think we lost your sound. Okay, we lost Mark. See if we can get him back in.
Are we good?
Yep, we got you back.
Perfect. I'm not sure what happened there. My apologies. Jump over. All right, so we got our day in February pulled up. Can you see the full day in your calendar? Can you see from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or midnight to midnight? Yes or no in the comments. Can you see the full day without scrolling up or down? You can't. Second question that I would ask you, all right, Maritza, you can, fantastic. The question that I want to ask you is, on that random day in February, without using your memory, can you tell me what was the most important thing that you needed to get done that day? Can you tell me that? No? Great. If you can you tell me without using your memory, can you tell me by looking at a random day in your calendar, if you got your most important thing for that day done that day? If you can't, then, and this is the thing that drives your day, your calendar is the thing that drives your day, how do you know if you're living by priority? Your digital calendar is set up to treat everything like it matters equally, and we now know that it doesn't. Chuck, what we're saying is just picking a random day in February. We're proving the point that our digital calendar doesn't set us up for success. What Gary suggests that we use is a bigger calendar, so we know exactly what we're looking like. Here's what Gary uses as a calendar device. Now, he still has a digital calendar, but this is the calendar that we carry around in the One Thing community. And what it does is it shows us first the time off. We know the days that we're not going to be working this month. And then we time block our one thing. As you see at the top of every day, next to the date, the number of the day, there's a line that identifies what was the most important thing that day. And then you can see where it says P with a circle. Those are the days that we go back and we plan. We time block our one thing, we time block our time off, we time block our planning time. And that helps us hit our goals because we now know how everything's interacting with something else in our world. Your calendar, your digital calendar, is set up to treat everything like it matters equally. When you identify what your most important priority is, what you then do is you take that priority and you take what's on your digital calendar and you make the distractions interview for the right to be on your calendar. And if they're not more important than your number one priority, you just say no to it. You pass it off, or you reschedule it, or you give it to somebody else. So that way you can focus on your number one priority, because until your number one priority is done, everything else is a distraction. So how do we protect our time blocks? 4 things. And as we're about to wrap this thing up, guys, the first thing we have to do is we have to build a bunker. A bunker is the environment that you work in that supports your goals. When you're in the bunker, you need to store provisions. So in my business, my main priority, my lead domino, is lead generation, which means I'm talking on the phone a lot. So one of my provisions is lots of water. so that way I can stay in the bunker and keep working on the thing that's most important. Once I'm in the bunker, step 3 is I sweep for mines. What are the things that are inside of my bunker that are most likely to blow up my entire day? They may be for you, email, text messages, multiple browsers open, Facebook. You have to find those minds that are going to take you off course and distract you from your one thing and get them taken care of. And then the 4th thing that you do is you enlist support. This idea of a bunker has been really challenged in the last month for us as practice leaders, because we're all working from home. And what usually in my office, I've got people that know that inside of my time blocked activities, I'm working on my number one thing. Don't distract me or don't ask me if I have a minute until this time. Challenge is now I'm working from home and I've got these kids that are awesome and they pop into my bunker all the time. So the conversation that I have with my wife is, hey babe, can I have 45 minutes at this time? And then we'll switch and I'll take the kids and you can have 45 minutes. And we enlist the support to make sure that the time that we do get to work on our one thing, we're extremely productive in that time. Build a bunker, store provisions, sweep for mines, enlist support. That's how you start to live your time block model. So I'm going to skip ahead for a second to our last section here. We've got lots of tools that we would typically talk about at this point. I apologize because my slides got messed up. But if we fly it to 10,000 feet, someone might ask, well, Mark, recapping, what's the next thing that I need to do to live out this one thing concept? First thing you gotta do is you have to identify what is your one thing. And you did that by making a prioritized success list. Then you need a time block time to actually work on your one thing and protect your time block. That's the foundation. If that's all that you were to do, to walk away from today's workshop with, I promise you'll see massive change in your business. And you may choose to go a little bit further. You may choose to live the models. We have something that's a relationship tool with our goals called a 411. And it basically lets us know what is our goal for the year, for the month, for the week. What do I need to get done today to make sure I'm on track to hit my goals? You also might choose to go on a 66-day challenge. A 66-day challenge is all about building habits. What are the things that you are trying to be disciplined in and your discipline is failing you and you would be better served by making it a habit? Inside of a community we have called the One Thing Community, we have extended our members. Habits are the most powerful thing that we can offer people to have massive success. So for right now, you can join the One Thing community for free for 66 days and go on a 66-day challenge with community people to help you. We find that when people do their 66-day challenge, overwhelmingly for the first 66-day challenge, people fail. When they do it in a community, 75% more likely to complete and succeed in a 66-day challenge. So we offer it for free. Love to have you join us. And then if you are a business owner that has people that report to you, or you have direct reports, you might choose to create a one-page business plan called a GPS that tells you turn-by-turn directions on how to get from where you are to where you want to go. And then you might have 4-on-1 meetings with your team. And if you need help with that, there's MAPS business coaches or what we call One Thing coaches to help you do that inside of your business. And you guys are pretty lucky because you have a One Thing coach inside of your Chamber of Commerce. MJ Coleman, who helped establish this workshop today, is a coach that specifically helps business owners or people that want to live by the one thing do that on a weekly basis. And the best part is she offers free consultations for you to sit down and know what that's like for you, your team, your business, or just your relationships. So it's a great opportunity that you have. You can connect with MJ, and of course, Amanda's got her contact information. I'm sure she'll be happy to connect you guys. So there you go. MJ just put her contact information in the chat box. So let's fly back up to 10,000 feet as we wrap this thing up. I want to ask you, what's the next step for you? What do you need to do? Of all those things we talked about, do you need to go on a 66-day challenge? Do you need to have a conversation with MJ about getting a one thing coach? Do you need to just time block some time for yourself? We're here to help and to serve at a high level and to help you hit your goals. But it takes you taking the first step of committing. Remember, think big, act small, trust that the dominoes will fall. Before you know it, you're going to find yourself knocking down dominoes that are 3,000 feet above Mount Everest. So take a moment right now, and I just want you to write down, what's the next step for you? Write it down. Did you get it written down? Keith, I see your question in the chat box. I'm going to answer that in just 1 second. Great question. He asked, what's the website for the 66-day challenge? That's a great question. The website is, you guys can write this down, it's called theonething.com, and that's with the number 1 in the URL. So theonething.com. It looks like this right there. Don't worry about the /feedback. That link is down right now. We tried it this morning. For some reason, we're having technical difficulties. But it's just the onething.com, and in there it'll say sign up for a free 66-day challenge. If you guys are going to go down that challenge and that's your next step, just let me know. I'd love to partner with you on that and help you along the way. There's no cost, like I said, completely free. So we'd love to have you guys do that. The next thing that we can do for you is there's a couple things that we also have as opportunities. There's a One Thing podcast that you can listen to. It comes out every Monday, and that's helping share the experience that people are having as they go on their one thing journey. There's the online training community that we talked about that's completely free right now. In November, every year, we have a couples goal setting retreat. And this year, we've split that up to where there's a couples goal setting retreat. And then there is a business, a team, or an individual goal setting retreat. And it's going to be incredible. And then you may choose to do what I'm doing. This may change your life the way it changed mine. And you might say, hey, I want to help people find the one thing. You can become certified to teach this stuff. Or like we talked about, connect with MJ as a one thing coach and start living this in your business on a weekly basis. Completely up to you. Lots of opportunities. As we wrap up, we've got 7 minutes left. We're going to be done in 5, so I'll give you 2 minutes left. What I'd love you to do is I'd love you to sit back in your chair, get comfortable, and just close your eyes for a few minutes. I'm going to take you on a journey. There's a book that was written called The Happiness Hypothesis. And as we go down this, it's a visual exercise. So if you would, close your eyes, get comfortable. I want you to imagine out in the jungle, you suddenly see an elephant and a boy sitting on top of the elephant's back. Instantly, you're transported and you're sitting on the elephant's back. And you feel the elephant breathing between your legs. His lungs expanding, contracting. Such a powerful animal. As you look down, in your right hand, you notice that you've got a stick. And you gently reach forward and touch the elephant's right ear. And the elephant begins to march. And it sways you back and forth. Who's in control? After a few minutes of walking, you come to an intersection and the elephant stops. You look left and you look right. You touch the elephant's right ear with the stick and the elephant begins to walk to the right. Who's in control? After a few minutes, come to another intersection. You look left, you look right. You touch the elephant's left ear. This time, the elephant goes right. Who's really in control? Open your eyes. This is the challenge we face every single day. The elephant in the story is our heart, it's our passion, it's our purpose, and the rider is our mind. It's our goals and the things we set out for ourselves. And I have to ask you the question, has there ever been a time in your life where your mind told you to go one way, but your heart was pulling you in another direction? See, the simple fact of the matter is when we live extraordinary results, we live by purpose, and we align our purpose with our goals, our rider with our elephant. And what that does is it gives us extreme clarity in our life. And by having extreme clarity, we can make decisions faster. When we make faster decisions, we get better options. And when we have better options, we have the best experiences. So line up your passion, your heart with your mind, and let those things pull you to your goals. This entire journey starts by asking yourself one simple question. What's your one thing? Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope you found value in our workshop today. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat box. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to Amanda or myself directly. And I'm going to hang out, Amanda, if it's okay, to answer some questions. We got about 4 minutes left. If people have.
There was one question in here. Kent wanted to know, what is your one thing?
What is my one thing? That's a great question. So the one thing the circle that I'm working on right now is my spiritual life. And so my one thing is spending 10 minutes every day just writing 3 things of gratitude. Very simple, so simple that it feels like I'm cheating, but I know that over time it's going to give me extraordinary results. Great question, Ken. Thank you for asking. Any other questions that I could answer for you guys? If you want, I'd love to hear kind of what is your one thing? What's the next step for you? Put that stuff in the chat box, or what was the big aha for you? The big thing that you kind of went, man, that's powerful. You're welcome, MJ. Now my email went to Carrie only. I'll put it back in here. Awesome, guys. That's my email. If you guys have questions for me specifically, I'd love to have that conversation. Again, please, if you have questions, reach out to Amanda or MJ. So my aha was that it's time for me to start another 66-day challenge. Great. Thank you, MJ. How did Corona affect your one thing? It completely changed it. Corona was before. My one thing was a sales goal. I was looking for a specific number of sales. And I realized that what was most important for me was relationships. And then I said, well, of all the relationships I could have, which one's the most important for me? And it started with my spiritual life. So I started that I needed to fix me so I could be the best husband and be the best father for my kids. Great question. Kent says reinforcement of what he already knows. And I hope, Kent, that means to do the things that matter most, that are going to give you the majority of your results. Perfect. I really appreciate your time, guys. It is 9:58. Like I said, we'd be done about 2 minutes ahead of time. So I appreciate you. You have my contact information in the chat box. Amanda, is there anything else that I can do for you guys today?
If you can share your slide deck, we can pass it on to everyone as well. We did record this session, so it will be uploaded later this afternoon for everyone to view. I know a few people either fell off or came back in and out, so you'll be able to see it later as well.
Perfect. Yeah, happy to do that. So, and if you'd share that recording with me, I'd appreciate it too, just so I can get
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
All right, my friends, thank you so much for having me. Enjoy the day today. It looks like it's going to be a good one. And like I said, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out either to myself, Amanda, or MJ. I'd be happy to help you guys. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Amanda, for letting us have the class. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, MJ, for facilitating it.
Uh-huh.
Dave, do you have anything to add before we sign off?
No, just thank you, MJ. Thank you, Mark. Really great presentation. And we look forward to working with you in the future.
Absolutely. Like I said, I appreciate you guys allowing us to come in and help. And like I said, hopefully find some value for your guys down there and help them hit their goals. So you guys are awesome. We're excited to work out and help you moving forward. So you got my email. Let me know if there's anything you need.
Great. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.